As with everything else Marvel Studios, about 10,000 theories exist on what the next chapter involving many of the characters coming together will be. We can quite obviously tell that they're forming some version of the Dark Avengers or the Thunderbolts. And now a fan theory that's making the rounds suggests that this is all being orchestrated by Kang. So if we look at the MCU as a chessboard, there's two working theories here that kind of become one. Essentially that you have the king piece, which is Kang, and then you have the queen on the board, which would be Contessa. Now, when it comes to this, you just have to look at the bigger picture and everything else that's on the board to understand what people are saying. So to break down the complexity of all this and just cut to it, we see that Contessa is already recruiting or working with multiple members of a evil faction in the MCU. We see that Yelena is working with her. We assume that she's probably gone on and recruited other people, including the recent John Walker. Now, how exactly does she know in detail the circumstances of Natasha's death? How does she know where all these people are and how they might be swayed into joining a team, or some are even just willing to outright? And why is there other characters that seem to be being lined up perfectly to join this team? The theory suggests that you have the king looking over everything, and the king would be Kang, who has seen different versions of everything. He's seen different versions of the future, and now through the manipulation and the fracturing of the timelines, he's realized that maybe the best to defeat the Avengers is to build a opposing team with people that know exactly how to go after them and start assembling them. And this, I would say, honestly does make some sense. And for example, people are using little Easter eggs in like the 5th episode of Loki, where we see the building. It's like, oh, Kang Enterprises. Okay, well maybe, just maybe, that's one of the leftover pieces from when the tower was bought and converted into that specific location that we know from the comics. But in the MCU, it's handled a little different. The character knows about the fracturing timeline, Kang's time travel and try to stop one another, and now they're all over the place. So could one of the variants of Kang realistically be already somebody we've seen? Some are even saying maybe a version of Kang is Contessa. I don't believe that one. I think that's too far-fetched. But you never know what they could pull. I do believe that maybe a version of Kang is working with her or manipulating her or feeding her info for his own gains, and he's trying to stay a little bit more underground and off the radar from the other Kangs and, you know, do his own thing in his own way that will ultimately not work for him. But I think there is something to this that could end up being true, because they have to all tie into Kang being the main villain somehow.